Well, it's recording right now, so start whenever you're ready.
Okay. All I really have to say is I'm gonna screw with my little intro that I usually do for my videos, but because I really want to get to IGN. You know, they recently made a review on Sonic Generations. They gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Now, you consider coming from IGN, that is a grace from God. Consider, most of the time when they review a Sonic game, they're like, "Oh, it sucks." And the last time they really gave a decent review on a modern Sonic game was, I guess you could say Sonic Colors, which wasn't really that too long ago. But still, for some odd reason, there's still fans who are bitching at them, and it just makes me scratch my head as to why. Lucario Trainer 12, for example, he basically made a video commentating on IGN's newest review of Sonic Generations, despite the fact they gave it an 8.5 out of 10. He's like, "Oh, this review sucks. This review sucks. Oh my god." So, I just gotta say this. What is the point in complaining about the game despite the fact that they gave it a good review anyway? I mean, it was an 8.5 out of 10, and even so, that's still a pretty good rating. I mean, the last time they ever gave a game that high of a rating when it was a Sonic game was, I guess you could say Sonic Pocket Adventures. They gave that game a 10 out of 10, but even so, it's not like they were really saying anything bad about it. In fact, near the end of the review, they said that it was a love letter to Sonic fans. So what is the problem here? Is it because it's IGN? And that's mainly most of the problem with most commentaries on IGN. Mainly most of the time, like, "Oh, this review sucks." Are you really saying it sucks, or does it suck because it was made by IGN? That's all I have to ask. And it's not really like they were saying anything that bad about the game either. They were just saying there's some slight clunkiness, there's some slight repetitive design, and some music may not be that interesting to hear. But other than that, those were just minor issues that they had that barely killed the game anyway. So, what is really the issue? I mean, people say, like, IGN are the worst reviewers, the most ignorant reviewers when it comes to Sonic games. You guys obviously have Game Informer. Speaking of Game Informer, if it weren't for reviewers like XPlay, I would consider Game Informer one of the worst reviewers out there. They basically say some of the dumbest things about a lot of the games that they review, and yet no one gets on them for that. Instead, they take the rage out on other reviewers who are possibly giving better reviews on them, but they're angry because it's not a 10 out of 10. Now, here's the thing with Game Informer. I used to think that they were okay. I used to think they were decent, but it seemed like ever since it came to things like Call of Duty Modern Warfare and it started getting more onward in the Call of Duty series, they started getting a bit more and more biased towards the games that they review, especially when it came from things that weren't from Activision, weren't Call of Duty, or not God of War, or Final Fantasy, but that's another story. However, they reviewed Sonic Generations, and they gave that a 6.5 out of 10. Why? Because modern Sonic gives us bad memories of the crappy past that he had. Yeah, they gave it a poor rating because they obviously can't let go of the 15th anniversary. That obviously sucks. Okay, I understand that Sonic 06 was a terrible game, but that was 2006. Yet they're still complaining about it now. They obviously have been making better games. I mean, yes, Sonic Unleashed did have its issues, but they're starting to get more and more into actually knowing what they're doing when it comes to listening to their fans and some of the suggestions that they're getting, and actually making good games. Sonic Colors is proof of that. Sonic Colors is basically Sonic Unleashed, but some of the advice that some of the fans have given to the company, and basically it was put into that game. So that's basically what Sonic Colors was. And yet, Game Informer still gave it shit because it was a ripoff of Super Mario Galaxy. Yet no one is complaining to them. What is wrong with you? I mean, and if there's anything like Game Informer, a lot of the things they make reviews on, they don't even know what the hell they're talking about half of the time. Three reviews I want to bring up. Obvious one, Klonoa. You all know how much of a fan Nazi I am of that series, and I fucking hated that review. Basically, they gave it a 7 out of 10. Not a bad rating, I will give them that, but the one issue that I really had with it, and that's something that really turned me off from the review. Basically, they said that Klonoa is basically this anamorphic creature from 1996 in the original Klonoa Dorta Phantomile for the original PlayStation. However, nowadays, it feels like it's behind in its times and no one cares anymore. I need to know, how many times did your mother smack you across the face for being a disgraceful human being with the intellect of a trollbuster? How many times did your teacher wrap your knuckles with a steel ruler from your autistic retardation? And you know something? I can say the same thing for most of the other retards from Gameinformer. Are you fucking kidding me? Because it's an anamorphic animal in a 2.5D side-scroller from the 1990s era, from the PS1 era? Are you fucking kidding me? And not only that, you say that they're behind in the time, yet you praise New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which is a 2.5D side-scroller. And it's basically just a 2D scroll, but with 3D graphics. Klonoa, on the other hand, it feels linear, but the level design is actually a huge corkscrew with you going into the foreground and background, actually reacting to things in the foreground and the background, and interacting with everything. Yet you praise Super Mario Bros. Wii and say Klonoa is behind in the times. What kind of crack are you smoking? Because whatever it is, I want some. The next thing I'd like to talk about is The Legend of Spyro Dawn of the Dragon. Again, fucking hated this review. Now, the reason I am saying this, because, I am a fan of the Legend of Spyro series. I actually think it's kind of good. Okay, shoot me, for the love of God. I mean, I actually do like it. Yet, Gameinformer decided to make a review on Dawn of the Dragon, and they decided to give it a 3 out of 10. What are the reasons? Oh, because there's slight choppy audio and it rips off God of War. And that was it. First of all, I would like to say, I rarely heard any audio chopping, so, maybe either I need to get a hearing aid, or obviously there's some kind of connection going on with each other's audios. I hope it is the first one. Because, honestly, if you're going to try to make up something like that, well, I just don't know what to say to something like that. I mean, when it came to me actually listening to the audio, I heard, no audio chopping whatsoever, and I don't understand, what they were talking about. And the second part, the fact that, it rips off God of War, this is one that always came really stingy to me, because they say this about, a lot of games that are based off of childhood cartoon characters or childhood video game mascots. Sonic Unleashed was one of them. They hated that game because the nighttime stages rip off God of War. And this is where I sense a little hypocrisy in them, because they reviewed Dante's Inferno, and I swear to God, the first sentence in their review was, "It's God of War in and out. Who doesn't want that?" How do you not read your articles and not sense the hypocrisy? You're going to bitch at Spyro and Sonic for ripping off God of War. Dante's Inferno is perfectly fine. So let me get this straight here. If it's based off of a childhood icon, then it's a big no-no. But if it's based off of something else, that makes it A-okay. Apparently, I'm just going by IGN logic. Not IGN, Gameinformer logic. Fucking hell, I'm raging so much about this. Seriously, get me into a conversation about Gameinformer, I will fucking rage. Because I just can't believe how much a good company like this, a good reviewing place like this, just went so downhill. And the sad thing is that they sponsor GameSpot, and yet the employers at GameSpot know more about games than the actual magazine. That is sad. I mean, that's like a scholar trying to be. That's like some guy graduating from college as a Harvard scholar, trying to be a teacher to some kids, teaching kids quantum physics when his 2-year-old son knows. So, guess we better hit the deck. And then, of course, there was the review on Final Fantasy 13. They basically said that game was absolutely amazing, mainly because of the combat system and the visuals were so spectacular. Yeah, despite the fact that 50 hours of the first freaking part of the game, you're going in a straight freaking line. And no doubt your party hasn't even arrived yet. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, repetition? What's that? And which is kind of funny considering you complain about Sonic Colors for being repetitious, so, I guess more hypocrisy. when it comes to Game Informer, their fail just absolutely defies everything. But in fact, even on their top 200 best video games list, and yes, they actually made a top 200. I am not shitting you. And they basically put like all these games that they claim to be, oh my god, these games are so amazing, these are the best. Yet some of the games that are like really, really low on the list and they've made reviews on them, they've claimed to like be better than any of the other games that they have played. A perfect example, Metal Gear Solid 4. They gave that game a 10 out of 10, yet that game received a place of number 108 on the top 200 list. Yes, Metal Gear Solid 4 ranking that low. I honestly don't know why. It's just something that baffles me a lot. And not to mention a lot of IGN's jokes. Why do I keep confusing the two? Game Informer, just when they try to make jokes, it's just absolutely horrible. I mean, okay, for the people who are listening to right now, I am going to say one of the jokes that they made in their Star Fox Assault review. And, hey, Chad Social 11, if you're watching this, you're going to love this one comment. They basically, one of the comments they made about Star Fox Assault was, it's like pouring gasoline on your pancakes. Just... I honestly have no comment there. And I think their worst joke would have to have been their one for their Willy Wonka review, where basically they said, Willy Wonka puts the Wonka back in wonky controls and the Willy back in Willy Quappy Wevel design. Jesus Christ, what is Joshua A428 writing your freaking jokes? Jesus Christ, why didn't you employ that moron? And Jesus, just either way, Game Informer, I used to respect them. I used to think they were great reviewers, but now they just baffle me. And their Sonic Generations review, it just makes me question why. Why is it that they go after IGN for giving it a good score, yet they completely ignore Game Informer? Either they may have not heard of Game Informer, and if that's the case, I recommend checking out their website. They have some pretty lulzy things if you happen to run across any. But that is basically my rant here. I can't stand Game Informer, and the people that can go fuck themselves, and the people who rage at IGN, the people who go, oh, you can't spell ignorant without IGN. Yeah, this coming from the guy who hasn't even started the review yet. I'm done. Go fuck yourselves.
Romors, have my babies, please.
Yay. Those jokes are horrendous. They really were.